very welcome to this conversation. I'm very excited to be talking to you about all things coaching. We have known each other for quite a long time now. And in terms of today, we're here to talk about coaching, leadership coaching, how it impacts individuals in senior positions. But that's not all. Where it goes when you get coaching for yourself. What are the bits that really stick with you? What activates change and transformation? You know, our style of coaching is coaching with neuroscience, so it has a very deep view into an integrated response from the coaching. And we know that leaders and anybody in charge of people, in charge in terms of helping them grow and develop, neuroscience plays a really big part of that. And you as a leader play a big part and a big role in that. So in terms of our listeners and our audience, would you be okay introducing yourself and how we know each other? That would be great.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I'm Daryl Byrne. I'm CEO of Euronext Dublin, what was the Irish Stock Exchange, and I suppose I'm CEO of the exchange here, but we're part of a big European group, so the 7 stock exchanges within the group. And then at that group level, I'm also on the managing board of Euronext MB, which is the holding company. So I suppose I hold 2 roles. So one being local CEO, country head, but the other one being part of the managing board of a larger group. So as you mentioned, we worked together over many years. I suppose in my, before the Irish Stock Exchange joined Euronext, I headed up the regulatory area. And I suppose I've always benefited from coaching at different stages of my career. And it's always been a constant in my career, that I've dipped in and out of at different times or for concentrated periods of time, depending on what was happening with me and with the role as well and with the business.
And that's a really good point. If you could share, what are the catalysts for you seeking coaching? And I know you've had a few coaches and you work with coaches and you love coaching. So at what points, either from a personal or a team or an organizational or just a point where you go, now is a good time for me to step back in or step into a coaching relationship?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think for me, when I look back, there's a bunch of different drivers. So one is there could be particular business challenges. So, I suppose as leaders, you're always looking ahead, seeing what's coming down the track over the next few years. And sometimes there's a lot of new stuff coming your way. So it's helping you get in the right headspace to properly assess the environment, what's happening, and kind of navigating, I suppose, have challenge there and bring some clarity to that. So really to help you, formulate and articulate your thinking so that, something that appears like a very significant challenge, is more manageable as you work through it. But then as well, I think for me as well, I suppose, as, a company changes, as our team changes, when we joined the Euronext group. So there's constant change. So, at a personal level and in terms of my own leadership, you need to stop and reevaluate at different points of time and, just work out, whether you're doing things, the right way. Could you be doing things differently? Do you need to adapt the way you're leading? So just for me, coaching has always been really, really helpful because the coaches that I've engaged with, including yourself, Maureen, are in tune with what's happening in the marketplace, what's happening with other companies, what's best practice. So I've always been able to tap into that. So it could be, could be the case for the leadership skills that it's, I'm working on something specific, and coaching, serves me very well for a particular topic or area that I'm focusing on, but equally, over a longer period of time in terms of, developing the skills. And I think the third area that strikes me as well, it's more in terms of kind of personal development and career growth. I suppose when you think ahead of, okay, where might my career develop, you always want to put yourself into a position where you're always ready for the opportunities that present themselves to you, or that you seek out those opportunities, and that you're not in a position where you haven't really thought about stuff and you're not positioned right. When an opportunity arises, then it's in your control to assess it and think for yourself, okay, is this right for me? Or if it's not right for me, you move on. But coaching has always helped me think, okay, in my current role, as I develop over the next few years, where might that lead me? And coaching has really, I suppose, in a way, forced me to think more constructively about that.
Beautifully said. So there's loads in there. And when you think about the coaching you've had, and you think about the bits that help you with that navigating and leadership and adapting all the words you said, is there any style or approach that a coach has used, or even a technique that a coach has used or coaching has presented to you? And it might have been in the coaching space, Daryl. It might have been when you walked away and you went, actually, now I consider this, it all adds up, or it allows me make that decision better, or enable that other person grow, or speak with confidence in this other area, whatever it might be. Is there anything that you can touch off that goes, yeah, that was something that really highlighted an area for me to work better with, or activate myself better with?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I suppose when I got the CEO role, and I was working with you, and I was just I knew, obviously being new to a CEO role, there were certain skills that I needed to develop further, that would go with a CEO role. But also, I suppose I'd assumed responsibility for a particular business line, so there was kind of commercial development that I needed to refine as well. And actually, what was really good, at that time, I reached out to you, and something that I hadn't thought of at all, but that you brought to me was, a dual coaching where you would work with me, particularly on the leadership side and, refining skills there. But you also brought in somebody with a very strong commercial background that would work with me in terms of coaching on the pure commercial side. And actually, it's something that I'd never thought of. But it worked really, really well. And the three of us sat down together, and just had a coffee, because I suppose an important part of coaching is that you have a good rapport with the person that you're going to be working closely with, and because there's a lot of trust involved in the relationship, and that was something that worked really well. So for a period of time, I had, I suppose, dual coaching taking place. You on the leadership skill side, and then the other coach on that pure kind of commercial, strong business focus, business development side of things, and it worked really, really well. And I think what's nice is that, I suppose there was a more intense period, and then, once I got into a more comfortable place, then, I've been able to link back with you on the leadership side at different points, but I've also been able to link back with this other coach in terms of the business side as well. So that was something, I thought that worked really, really well.
And that's what coaching is, right? It's about collaborating and bringing the best resources into play. And I haven't even calling out, I haven't done that often with people, but in that position where you were, it just seemed exactly the right thing to do. And you're right, touching off that rapport piece and choosing a coach. We talk a lot about chemistry conversations in coaching, and discovery calls is another word. And I know you know what that's like, where you're building trust with someone. You have to share a lot of what could feel like vulnerable information, but it's an incredibly safe space. Yeah, but there's an opportunity to pick and choose the right coach for you. What are the things you look for? If we're thinking about developing coaching and choosing coaching, what do you look for in a coach when you're choosing one?
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's a bunch of things really. So one is, somebody who understands the business environment that I'm working in. And then, there's also then somebody who has a lot of experience in terms of dealing with a wide range, of different companies as well, because, I'm in financial services, but, you get lots of ideas from other industries as well that flow through as well. But then I think the chemistry piece, and working with somebody that you feel comfortable with, that will be supportive, will ask the right questions, and be challenging as well. So it can be quite easy to give a vague or a bland answer to a question that's been asked, but somebody who can actually really keep, pushing and drilling down to really get to the nub of what the issue is, or the concern is, or what's holding you back, and really draw that out, and shed put some light on that. That makes a big difference. So there's a whole bunch of things there, but I think it's one of those things that, when you get it right, it's really, really powerful.
Yeah, I agree. And I know, it has to work on both sides.
Yeah.
I always say it has to be a yes, yes on both sides. And it goes to prove we've had a very long-standing relationship that it works for us on both sides. And I'd love to think for a minute about where you share your coaching in terms of how it cascades from your role down through your team, down through your organization. And separately to you, I know I've worked with other people in your organization, teams. We put in a couple of coaching programs a number of years ago from a culture perspective. But when you think about how you see coaching expand the resources in your organization, open them up either on a conversational point or a leadership point, management point, where do you see coaching from you show up in that ripple effect in the organization you're in?
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of probably true leadership and with the rest of the leadership team here, just in terms of, we share information with each other and things that, work from a coaching perspective, we can share with each other and, try things out, in terms of how we manage and lead our teams. So that's part of it. I think the other thing as well is, we've been very good about, because we see such a value in coaching and encouraging others. And I'm not necessarily talking about at management level, but other people within the organization that would benefit from coaching. We're really encouraging them to engage in that and providing that to them as well. I think that's really, really important. And I think what's nice as well is then, we have a mentorship program at work. So what I've seen is people, start off and being mentees, so you're receiving the benefits of having a mentor there in place. But after a couple of years, then becoming mentors themselves. So I think there's a nice culture has evolved around leadership, coaching, but also mentoring, and people see the power of that. And I think, certainly from my perspective, I mean, I've benefited massively from it myself. But as I look to people on my team that have, been through various coaching times, you can see how it's helped them transform as well, which is great.
And when we take that now and that ripple effect and we think about the future, and you're thinking about 2025, 26, 27, we're looking 3 and 5 years ahead. Where do you think there's going to be a bigger need for or demand for coaching when we look ahead strategically at what's coming down the line as a business? What
Yeah.
do you think people will be looking for coaching for? What types of topics, what types of agendas, what types of areas do you think we're looking at?
I think, because now when you look at the world, even this year, how things have changed, and with all the elections and, particularly in the US. So we're leading now through very uncertain times. So I think there's going to be, something around leadership where, there is that uncertainty there, but we all need to be flexible and we need to be agile. And like, how do you tap into that so that, you're pursuing a certain course, but actually, because of the external environment, because of all the uncertainty, you need to be agile and you need to adapt. So I think, equipping people to be able to, I suppose, deal with that is going to be an important part. And then I think, I think we see a lot throughout business as well. Just the whole business environment now is a lot tougher. Competition is intense, and maybe even because of the whole kind of geopolitical situation, we see more competition in terms of, geographies, US versus Europe versus Asia, etc. So I think there's something there in terms of kind of, a lot of demands on people, to perform and to deliver the results in that uncertain, highly competitive environment. So, being resilient, being agile is crucially important, but being resilient as well. And how do you carry that right level of resilience in that environment? And, particularly for your teams as well, and translating that down. And I think the other thing that I see as well is that, we're very fortunate in that, here we've got a lot of people that have worked with us for a number of years. We've brought in a lot of new people. In fact, half of our team, our overall team here, is new in the last 3 years, which is great because it brings in a whole new energy and new way of thinking, etc. But it means that for slightly more senior people like myself, we're managing a whole range of different generations from, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, And actually a real challenge is understanding, you know, how those different generations think, how they approach work, you know, what's valuable to them. And you really see the difference. And, you know, I think as well, because COVID had such a massive impact, you know, we're seeing the aftershock of that as well in terms of the workplace. So there's a whole, I think there's a whole area there that, you know, as leaders, we really need to equip ourselves to make sure we can lead effectively, and coaching has a big role to play there, particularly understanding those different generations.
And you know, you hit off two things there, Daryl, that stand out to me. Resilience has really had a focus in the last few years because of COVID, right? And the changes, and everybody's going, okay, let's stabilize ourselves now with the geopolitical landscape we're in, stabilizing ourselves, having resilience. And you also mentioned taking on board multi-generational workforces, which is way more than we've ever had to experience before. And multinational, multicultural, there's so many different moving parts in that matrix. But because you touched off values, I'm curious how you have used, and I know we've worked on values, how you have used values to keep yourself stable and connect to your resilience in these uncertain times.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because it's actually, I found, is a body of work to really work out what your values are. I mean, you know, because there's so many different values, but and you could name loads and loads of them, but actually, when you really drill it down and say, what is core to you? Like, what really stands out above all others? So actually, coaching has really helped me, you know, get to that place and understanding that. And then I think, you know, in terms of leadership and to be authentic, you really have to just stick to your core values in terms of, you know, how you engage with people, how you lead the teams, you know, how you conduct yourself in the workplace and outside of work as well. I mean, it's, you know, because your values are with you in work, they're with you at home, you know, everywhere. So like it's really important, I think.
Yeah, they inform every part of us. So any last tips or feed you have, if you think about someone that hasn't had, that's in a leadership position or just gone into a senior leadership position, and is thinking about coaching as an option, what would you say to them?
Yeah, no, I'd say give it a try. I mean, you've absolutely nothing to lose. And I think the nice thing about coaching is that, you know, if you engage with a coach, you know, the hope is that it works out and, you know, everything goes really well with the coach. But equally, if you identify early on that, you know, it isn't moving in the right direction or you don't have the rapport with the coach, the nice thing is that you can step away from it and the coach will not be insulted. I mean, this is just life, you know. So I think there's so much to be gained from having, you know, a really good coach on your side that you know, give it a try. And my experience is I've worked with a number of great coaches over the years. When I say over the years, over the last couple of decades, including yourself, Maureen. But what's really nice is, you know, because of the relationship and the rapport you build up. So I still am in contact with all of the coaches that I've had, and depending on what's happening, sometimes there'll be something where I think, okay, for this particular issue or this particular topic, I'd really benefit from a coffee or, you know, a quick call with, you know, one of my coaches from the past. And so those relationships are still going, and I do tap into those people, you know, at different times. And the nice thing is there's never an issue, you know, and it's always great. And when I see, it might be that I haven't seen somebody for a couple of years, but when I see them, then it's just like, you know, we had a call yesterday. It was great.
That's the sign of an established trusting relationship, isn't it? It doesn't have a start stop, it just has a continuation.
Yeah.
Listen, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Loved hearing your insights and sharing, and I know other people will really benefit from it too. And I know we'll be talking again shortly. So thank you, Daryl. Really
Great.
appreciate it. And I'm just
Thank you
going
very
to
much.